When my mom was alive, my mom passed away a couple years ago. When she had her iPhone and she was older, she was in her late 70s and 80s, and she would call me every 2 to 3 weeks and be like, my phone's not ringing, or like, something isn't, I can't hear this sound or that sound. And we have to run through three things almost every single time. And the first is your silence mode on, which means check your side switch, right? Do you have it in do not disturb mode? So we have to get into the control center, right? The hidden swiping to get the control center up, and then check to see is do not disturb on. Or maybe go into settings and check do not disturb, and then we'd have to check the volume level. And she would never remember. So it was great. I had to hear from my mom every 2 weeks because this thing happened every 2 weeks.
Hey Siri, what does jMac fix?
jMac fixes everything.
Coming to you from the Owl's Nest Studios in Portland, Oregon, it's jMac Fixes Everything, where we answer your tech questions and discuss all things Apple. For valuable, actionable, real-world Apple advice that you can count on, look no further than jMac Fixes Everything. Now here's your hosts, Jamie Pollock and Audrey Isbell.
This episode of jMac Fixes Everything is brought to you by RoyalWise.com and the RoyalWise Owls platform. That's my very own on-demand web-based learning solution where I have 40-plus hours of on-demand video training to help you master all of your Apple devices. And stay tuned for a little later in the episode. I'm going to be making a special offer to give you a great deal on your first class inside of the RoyalWise Owls. We hope you enjoy this episode of jMac Fixes Everything. So hey everybody, welcome. My name is Jamie. Company's RoyalWise. You can always find us online at RoyalWise.com. Welcome to whatever this is. I think we're going to call it a podcast or a webcast eventually. But our episode topic that we've been talking about is making the switch or switching from Android to Apple. And as always, my co-conspirator, Audrey, is here with us. So say hi to everybody, Audrey.
Hey everybody.
Excellent. So... episode 6, I think this is our 6th session, where we are digging into helping Audrey transition from her Android phone to her iPhone. I want to start this conversation with a couple quick questions. She had some homework assigned to them. I'm going to try to make sure I'm pronoun proper and just use the
dog ate it.
Them
the dog ate it.
The dog ate it. She did not do her own.
No, I totally did some of my homework.
Okay, so the homework was basically to go take my iPhone, iPad, All the Basics course. It's a 2-hour fundamentals course that's supposed to cover kind of the basics of the operating system of the iPhone and give you kind of an overview of the iPhone and help you kind of just get on your feet. Doesn't go super deep into like something. I got a level 2 class about navigating within apps and stuff that kind of goes a little deeper. So Audrey, did you take the class?
Okay, so
and what'd you think?
Was in high school a C student at best.
I don't believe that one. I don't believe that for a minute.
Which means I got 70 to 75% of the way through my homework. But as you know, I'm very busy. And oh my word, I should have been in these videos to begin with. You answer so many questions.
Right. It's intuitive and I'll just hands-on. I'll work my way through, right?
Okay. If you're out there and you're listening, go and take all the basics classes from Jamie. If you're a switcher and you're struggling, if you're not a switcher and you're thinking about switching, like all of the things.
All the things.
All of the things. He teaches it. That's my best Jerry Seinfeld, right?
There we go. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. You've got to listen to this. It's Jerry. Jerry, what are you doing?
But it's true. Even down to the USB-C,
or lightning adapter.
To the lightning adapters and all the stuff.
What do the little holes do? Where do the speakers come out? What's the power button do versus the volume buttons do, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. And mind you, I've only made it through 70 to 75%.
Okay, so about an hour and a half through. Okay.
Yep. And you've already answered so many questions for me doing this with me, right?
Yep.
But you managed to answer questions I didn't even know that I had.
That's one of the things I want to just mention about our curriculums, and my wife Alicia and her QuickBooks curriculum, me and my Apple curriculum. She actually developed a lot of my Apple curriculum for me before I took it over, and then I kind of went a little deeper myself on how I wanted to present it. But it is foundational. And we want to make sure that you build a good foundation and then you build on that. You know, we make the joke, well, you don't know what you don't know, but we do. Like, we know what it is you don't know. Knowing all the things, whether you thought you needed them or not, I think is the way to put it. Like, you don't think you need to know this or that. And I even say with my Mac OS class for my laptop desktop class, all the basics. So I've got people that have been on Macs for 10, 20 years. They're not new to Mac, you know. They're like, I don't need to take an all the basics course. I was like, well, I challenge you to watch the 2 hours. I'll even give it to you for free if I need to, just to prove the point, and then you can pay me if you think it's worth it.
Yeah, don't say that.
I guarantee anybody will learn at least a minimum of 3 things they didn't know that they needed to know, right? Or 3 things that go, oh, that's that thing I've always kind of wondered or just bypassed because I didn't know the term or I didn't understand how it fit in. And I'm still functional, right? It's not a make or break. It's not like, oh my God, I can't use my phone because I didn't know this is in the settings somewhere. But then the minute you do know it's there, you're like, oh, now I can do these other things. Now I can build on that and go deeper and really be more productive in a way that maybe you didn't realize you could before. Is that ringing true to your experience?
100%. I mean, more than 100% is ringing true. And I am the person that digs in. I do it myself. I figure it out. I'm very hands-on. I want to know how that works in so many ways. I've always wanted to have my own stumbling block so that I could get past that stumbling block and know that a little bit deeper, right?
Well, there's that phrase, like, I wouldn't join a club I didn't start, right? Or so W.C. Fields quote. I think it's
limited way of thinking, perhaps. But
I guess his quote was, "I wouldn't join a club that would have me." No, that's a joke. That wasn't his quote. So let's see. Do you have just maybe 1 or 2 tidbits that came out of the class that, as the switcher or as the person trying to get on their feet, give us a tip or 2 that the other switchers could probably utilize?
Well, I mean, here's the thing, right? We look at the phone and we think we've just kind of got it down, but there's that, and I don't know if you're going to be able to see it if I hold it up, but there is that little red dot.
The little orange dot inside of the side switch. It's called the side switch.
Right. Totally foreign to me.
100%
foreign to me. Did not know what that was about. On an Android, you're clicking the volume until it's muted.
Yeah, but we have a silence mode, right? You can just flip that thing and go into silence mode.
And this was something that, you took great care to slow down in your teachings to go through. Here's the hardware side of it. What does this flip switch do? I'm purchasing the darn thing, right? And I'm like, honey, what is this? Right?
Why would they have this there? Right?
Somebody. You have to ask somebody what the hell that is. What is that? Yep. So that was one thing. That
let me share a funny story about one of the reasons why I cover that at the level that I do, and then you can bring us your next little tidbit. When my mom was alive, my mom passed away a couple years ago. When she had her iPhone and she was older, she was in her late 70s and 80s, and she would call me every 2 to 3 weeks and be like, my phone's not ringing, or like, something isn't, I can't hear this sound or that sound. And we'd have to run through 3 things almost every single time. And the first is your silence mode on, which means check your side switch, right? Do you have it in do not disturb mode? So we have to get into the control center, right? The hidden swiping to get the control center up and then check to see is do not disturb on. Or maybe go into settings and check do not disturb. And then we'd have to check the volume level. And she would never remember. So it was great. I had to hear from my mom every 2 weeks because this thing happened every 2 weeks. And especially for all the basics, you'll notice, and I kind of make the joke, is the class is really spent, like, when I swipe up, this happens. When I swipe down, that happens. If I swipe from the top right corner, this happens. Like, what are all these kind of hidden areas, and how do I get around inside the operating system? Well, what is this today area? What is this control center? What's a notification center? And some of that's even changed with the new operating systems. What is focus? Focus is now taken over do not disturb. And even I'm going to be doing my my What's New in iOS class next week, and we're going to be talking about how you can customize the home screen based on what focus you have. Are you at work? Are you at home? Are you asleep? All those sorts of things.
That's cool. Sign me
know,
up,
and
please.
and then and then the last part of that, all the basics class, is settings, right? Really, just what I think everybody needs to understand is where are the controls. And I make the joke in the class, well, so the control center, notification center, all these controls, but everything else is in one place, and that's settings. And if you don't understand where it is and how to kind of look around there, then you're not in control, right? You can't change it. You can't make it do what you want to do. So I think those are why I call it all the basics. And the two things that come out of it that I think are kind of funny is, one, by the end of it, people have all these questions about, well, what about Mail? What about Safari? What about switching between apps and navigating this or that? I'm like, well, but that's this level 2, right? That's navigating apps and understanding nomenclature and what does this little symbol mean and what does that little symbol mean.
And I gotta say, I'm eager for those, right? Like, we live and breathe by our apps, people.
Yeah, right? Well, what's the iPhone joke since day one? There's an app for that, right? Well, what about that? Well, there's an app for that, And so level 2 is getting beyond operating system and into apps. But for me, I in both my Mac OS and my iOS, it is that kind of, what is the operating system? When we talk about the laptop, well, there's the desktop and the menu and the dock. And in that environment, it's called the Finder, right? The Finder is actually the operating system. People are like, what? No, it's this window where I look at my files and find things. I'm like, that's a Finder window, but that's not the Finder. The Finder is the desktop and all the things that make it up, right? So in iOS, the control center, the notification center, the spotlight search, these are the operating system. And they're all a flick away. I accidentally flicked this way or that way, and all of a sudden.
To add it, so I have to say, because you asked me for a couple of things that I got from my homework.
Let's do it. Yeah. What's another one?
And one of them was the fact that I really actually did spend some time in the control center and my settings, right? Because you take us through that and how to customize that control center.
Yep. Adding little buttons. And by the way, the magnifier app, that's the only place it exists. So the iPhone operating system comes with an app called Magnifier, great for getting like things out of your finger.
Splinters out. Oh yeah.
Splinters out.
I get those all the time. I have an old house and I'm constantly working on things.
Or you're at one of these new hipster bars and you're trying to read the menu. And you're like, what? I can't write, right? So the Magnifier app has a built-in flashlight and you can pinch and zoom and do all this, but it's not an actual app and it's not on the home screen, and the only way to access it is to customize the control center and add the button there.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And it's right next to where the flashlight is, right? So the flashlight lives there, and that's where we would also find the Magnifier app.
Yep. And the flashlight saved my bacon this week because I was sneaking out of my friend's house because we were house sitting and I had to go to work super early.
Yeah.
So, and she was so sweet. She took the couch and I got to have the bed and all that jazz. And so, of course, the couch is in the living room, right next to the front door. I'm like, oh, man, I don't want to wake her up at 5 a.m., so totally was using my flashlight app on my phone and thankful that the control center was so well organized.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, I'm going to pitch this. And it's funny is I don't have it on right now because I was just doing some dishes. So I took my watch off. The Apple Watch has a flashlight capability too, where you can quickly say flashlight, but it's not as bright as the phone.
Oh.
Right, it's
you
a lot.
Can say flashlight. You
can say, hey Siri, turn on the flashlight. Yeah, you could possibly do that. I'd have to test it, but
that would be cool.
You swipe up from the bottom to get into where all the little tools are, and there's a flashlight right there, and it's a really dim white light that you can just hold your wrist this way, like you're a superhero, and walk through the room.
Now you're speaking my language,
right?
That's my talk anyway. That's what I do.
So I like the flashlight on the watch when I'm coming to bed late, and I know that people are asleep in the room or I'm trying to sneak out early. But I do feel kind of like I've got the Wonder Woman bracelets on, right?
Is that your superhero? Wonder Woman?
She's one of them, yeah. I identify with Wonder Woman. What's wrong with that?
Man, that's awesome.
I also identify with the Hulk occasionally.
Well, I was going to say, don't we all? And I am all about the She-Hulk these days.
Right. jMac, smash.
There you go.
She-Hulk, huh? You enjoying the She-Hulk?
Yeah, I'm enjoying the She-Hulk. I really am.
It's just so silly. It's just
I'm trying not to get all She-Hulk in my learning process
there
with the
we go.
iPhone.
Well, I mean, I don't know. You need to have some fun and some humor and some stuff like that.
Little bit.
Okay, so getting in the control center,
Yep.
understanding the settings, how to
Yep.
control that
Well,
stuff.
and I
Great.
believe I had to actually add the calculator to my control center. That did not come stock in the control center, which I find completely absurd.
The Apple TV remote. If you have an Apple TV, you
I
can
do
put
have
an
an
Apple
Apple TV, and I have not connected any of
you,
that stuff
and you
yet.
can put an Apple
so
TV remote right there in the
that
control
is
center. That's another
place
really
to
great one.
explore. And by the way, I'm curious to know if that will override the actual remote that my husband is holding.
Yeah, you can compete.
Oh.
Yeah, you can compete. Yeah, he's going to hate me for that one. I know he's going to hate me for that one. But you got to be on the same Wi-Fi network, I think.
Yeah,
Also,
but
you
I
might
just want to mess with them. You know what I mean?
well, you might notice if your Apple TV and your phone are aware of each other, and part of it is that you're using the same Apple ID in both places. So the Apple TV is probably on his Apple ID, not yours. But you can set up your own profile on the Apple TV so that your preferences can show up when you want them. But like my phone, when I'm on my Apple TV and I pull up a search in YouTube or anywhere, like in the TV app or whatever, my phone pops up and says, "Hey, would you like to use a real keyboard instead of the weird one on the Apple TV?" And I can say, "Well, yes, I would." And then my phone turns into the remote where I can type in my search term. So I
Nice.
don't have to go, swipe, 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 swipe on that little Apple TV
Yeah.
remote.
Oh, and by the way, the Apple remote itself is very similar to learning iPhone versus an Android. It's all backwards, people.
Ah, well,
It's all backwards. Your swipe is the opposite direction. Don't even try,
natural swiping. We talked about natural swiping.
We
Up,
did talk about that.
swipe up, things go up. Swipe down, things go down. It's a good thing.
And I gotta tell you, the third thing that really impressed me about the training was that you had a couple of different types of Apple smartphone. One with the button at the bottom and one without, and you were demoing the things and how they work from one to the other. And I thought that that was really impressive because people automatically assume that if you have an iPhone, you just know how to use the damn thing.
Right. Nope.
Like, I don't. But people are handing me their iPhones. Like, here, can you
Oh,
I'm like,
you have an iPhone. Help me with this, right? Yeah, right.
totally. Oh my gosh.
Well, I'll tell you, all iPhones used to have the home button. Now it had Touch ID. So now what we say is it had Touch ID, and now it has Face ID because there's no home button. But the iPhone SE is a newly released model that still has the home button.
Oh.
So it's a brand new iPhone SE that they just launched.
Still works that way.
Yeah, the second generation of the iPhone SE. It's smaller and it will always have a home button, and it's the cheapest phone. It's the low end, cheaper iPhone. So if somebody doesn't want to spend $1,000, they only want to spend $300 or $400, they can still get an iPhone, and it's a little bit bigger than an iPhone 5. It's it's small compared to the 10s, the 12s, the 14s. But as far as me training, I have to say, with a home button, you would do this. Without a home button, you do, like with Face ID, you do this. With Touch ID, you do that. If you ever do the Mac OS Level 2 training, it's a challenge because...
Oh, I will.
Because we've
and
got...
I have a reason to.
We've got something else to talk about.
Not for myself just yet, but somebody in my world of things is going to a Mac, which they know how to use Mac, but they don't know how to use Mac at work.
Oh. Okay.
And so they're like, Audrey, can you help me with it? I'm like, it just so happens that I know a guy.
I know a guy, and he's on demand. Well,
Yeah.
So when you go to Mac, if you're using an iMac or a desktop, you might have a magic mouse, and you notice Apple mice. There's no buttons; it's a flat surface, and
Don't get me started
but
on
you
that.
can do a left or a right click if you want to, but you can turn that off, and it's only a single click if that's what you want. But you can swipe on the top and do all this stuff on the top of the mouse.
No wonder.
And or you could have a trackpad, right? So like on your laptop, you have a trackpad on the laptop, so you can do multiple swiping on the here, and one finger or two finger or whatever. So a 3-finger swipe on the trackpad is the same as a 1-finger swipe, or excuse me, a 2-finger swipe on the trackpad is 1-finger swipe on the mouse. And so in the Level 2 Mac OS class, and it's a hard class because I'm like, well, you do it this way on this and this way on that, and then here's the next feature, and you do it this way on this and this way on that. And I don't know if it's the most efficient way to teach,
I don't know. I don't know either.
I think next time I'm going to try it where I just like show on the trackpad the entire time. I just show all the features on the trackpad and then go. And if you have a magic mouse, let's run back through the features a second time and how does it work on the mouse so people can focus on I'm a trackpad user or I'm a mouse user.
I don't know. I think like you're drawing me in with both because I am the ultimate prankster. You talk about the natural swiping and how you can change that.
Yeah. Yep. System preferences, go into the mouse settings, go into the trackpad settings.
Yeah. What do you mean that's not working quite right? Ooh, interesting.
Wasn't me. Have you seen that you can actually like get what looks like an iPhone screen that's shattered and you put it as somebody's background? Or you put it on their lock screen?
No.
So when they wake their phone up, their phone looks like the screen is shattered, but it's not. It's a big April Fool's joke. People do it to each other on April Fools all the time.
Oh, I'm doing that.
No, your husband doesn't get to watch these episodes until after.
Oh, he's gonna be like, "Where's Jamie? Where is he?"
I don't know if you can blame it all on me.
No, blame so much as, honey, I've been edumacated.
There we go.
There's all these cool features, don't you know?
Well, speaking of edumacation, I want to thank you and celebrate you for, again, taking the on-demand class and being the kind of our guinea pig for this conversation, this experiment of the switcher.
My pleasure, and thank you.
Well, sometimes it's hard to get to see value before the experience. After the experience, we can spout value all day, right? Value added or whatever. And, part of it was I wanted you to do that and come back. And the real question, the ultimate question I'll ask you right now is, was it worth your time?
Oh, 100%. Like I said, I've got about 30% to go, and I fully intend on doing that because there's so much value in it. And like I said, other people are handing me their devices and whatnot. I mean, you can be like really savvy with whatever tech you had. If you even appear to be savvy with the tech that you have, somebody is going to be handing you their
You'll
stuff.
get recruited into trying to fix a problem for sure.
Yes. And in this case, I can't refer you quick enough.
This episode of jMac Fixes Everything is sponsored by RoyalWise.com and the RoyalWise Owls platform. That's my very own on-demand web-based learning solution where I have 40 plus hours of on-demand video training. And in this episode, I've got a very special offer. If you want to see the class that Audrey took and just talked about, run over to RoyalWise.com/iPhone class, and you can get that class for 50% off on me this episode. So when you're checking out, just make sure to use the coupon code AskJMac6. And again, that's go to RoyalWise.com/iPhone class. And when you're checking out, use the coupon code AskJMac6 for 50% off of that class. I was in the field today. I was at a client's house and I was coming back and having a wing week here in Portland. So I'm out eating chicken wings for lunch and putting online reviews up and stuff like that. And I had 2 emergency phone calls, actually 3 of them. Just people are just like, can you talk to me today? Today after 3, are you available? There's just this thing happened and it's, I got malware, I got hacked. And they're all like, I need an hour, I need a time on your calendar and I'm like, let's do a 10-minute phone call. And a lot of times the malware is they had a pop-up that took over their screen, they force quit the app and we're done.
Right.
And they're like, well, what do you mean we're done? I just got hacked and had malware. No, you didn't. You had a pop-up window, then you didn't know how to force quit it. And I teach that in level 1. That's a level 1 topic,
Well, and that's that competency that I'm really talking about. I am that person that I just want to feel exceedingly competent, no matter what it is I'm doing, that I'm out in the world and I'm functioning and I'm capable of handling my own shit.
Call number 2 was a very nice lady I've worked with for a long time, but every time anybody gets a new computer or a new phone, they're suspect of everything. This isn't the way it was, or it's not working correctly because I don't recognize it or whatever it was. And every time she would open a Safari web browser, it would be in private mode. So her history wasn't building. She couldn't go to history and see where she had been because she was in a private browsing window. And I was like, well, why are you in a private browsing window? And she's like, well, it's got to be the new tab groups feature. It's got to be this. It's got to be that. And I went into her Safari preferences, and right on the very first thing, it says open new windows, and then you got a drop down, When I open Safari, open a new window, open a private window, open, you know what I mean? There's like 4 options.
I need to learn how to do. I need private windows.
And it turns out she was on with Apple support, and the Apple support person couldn't figure it out.
Wow.
And somehow got her to change the setting to the exact opposite of what she needed. And I was just like, well, this is what's causing it. I mean, just switch this one little setting, and then it's not going to do that to you.
Wow, that's amazing.
But for her, I actually did go to her house. She was on my way home. I stopped in on her. I didn't want to try to do it over the phone, and that's why the Apple support person couldn't help her, because it was a phone support call, and sometimes you got to see it, especially with like a touch screen and her iPhone. Seeing it is the way. But for the conversation we're having, understanding what settings are or preferences are, right now we're still kind of at the basic level of the operating system. That was inside of Safari preferences, so it was actually at the app level, not the operating system level. But even like if I want to change my default browser, that's the operating system level, right? But I could actually find it inside the app level too if I wanted to. So
Well, guess what I did?
What'd you do?
Today.
What'd you do?
I controlled a widget.
Yay!
Yeah, all the
Did you put the
level
widget?
one people control your widgets.
There we go. Did you drag it onto your home screen? Do you have a widget on your home screen?
It was doing something I didn't like, so I made it stop.
Yeah, so notice on my home screen up here, I've got a little widget. It's got some pictures in it and stuff like that. So I've kind of been playing around with some of these widgets here, and you can move them over onto your home screen now.
Love it. Love it. Learned that.
Yay. Okay, so thank you for the 3 things, kind of just 3 of the things that you learned in your All the Basics class that made a difference to you, and will make a difference to other people, I'm sure. Now, questions. After you've done that 2 hours or hour and a half-ish that you've gotten through, did you feel like there was anything missing? I mean, there's always going to be more questions, and I don't mean to say it that way.
Half the time, I don't even know what I don't know, obviously, and as I work through things, more questions kind of pop in, and as you mention things, like some of the times I'm like, whoa, he's speaking gibberish again, right? Like, what is that?
I'm pretty good at stopping and going, oh, wait a minute, I'm using...
Are you going to be able to make me younger?
Right, exactly.
Like,
no, that's a known Apple term.
Question on my list. What the heck is a time machine, dude?
Let's answer that one right now. This will take about 45 seconds. It won't take long. Time Machine is a feature that's built into Mac OS for laptops and desktops that backs your machine up for you.
Okay.
So it's the built-in backup app for Mac specifically.
Okay.
We used to have something called a time capsule, which was a Wi-Fi router that had a hard drive built into it. So we would use the software Time Machine to back our machines up onto our time capsule.
Okay, so you remember how I told you that questions come out of questions?
Yeah.
So do we have something like that for
iOS, for phones?
Yeah, like
your phone should be backing up into iCloud. So as long as you go into settings, Apple ID, iCloud does do a lot of things, absolutely. And there's a distinction, just so, I like to make sure that you understand once we get into a topic or question, that you understand the deeper level of it. If you go into the iCloud settings, there's a series of things checked off, like this is syncing through iCloud. Therefore, I can have it go from my laptop to my iPhone to my iPad because it's in the cloud. It can come onto this device because it's in this list. The backup stores everything not in that list. So like if your contacts and calendars are turned on, they're in the cloud, not in the backup.
Oh, okay.
Right? If your iCloud photo library is turned on, your photos and videos are in your cloud storage.
A sync and a push?
A little bit, but not even. Like when we talk about push, it's almost like email, right? Am I saying, hey, I'm going to come and ask you for it, or you're just going to push it at me, right? And so when we talk about a push or a pull, normally emails, what we're talking about are like, how often does my phone contact the server for an update? The minute something changes on the server, does it come to my phone? That's a push.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Like I'm on my laptop and I put in a contact. There's a new contact in the cloud. It pushes to my phone because there's a change. The email used to be every 20 minutes my phone will ask the server for new emails. That's a pull, right? Hey, can I have the new emails now? So a push is when there's a change on the server, it automatically shows up. A pull would be a request. Hey, can I have it now? Hey, can I have it now? This is a little bit different. A backup on the iPhone happens once a day, normally at night. It's got to have 3 things. It's got to be connected to power, it's got to be on Wi-Fi, and it's got to be locked or asleep, right?
Well, so that's a lot of parameters.
Those are the 3 things that allows the iCloud backup to happen when you're not using the phone.
So if you're like me and you're just like, phone is always somewhere going, not plugged in,
You don't sleep, you're saying. You're saying that you don't sleep at night?
Well, I don't plug it in when I sleep at night.
Oh, well, that's normally when people charge their phone at night when they're asleep.
I do not. And
that's normally when these 3 things all occur at the same time. And I think we checked your backup last time or the time before, and you were like, oh, it backed up yesterday at 3:45 p.m. And I'm like, well, that's a very strange time for it to back up, but
Yeah,
okay.
because, well, did you say one of the parameters is that it needs to be plugged in on Wi-Fi?
Yeah, plugged in and on Wi-Fi and on, so you can't like be
That's why.
out of the house or in the car and plug it in and be like, oh, it's going to happen.
Well, okay. Okay, so I'll just tell you, my bedroom area does not have an open floor plan, but where my bed sits does not have an electrical outlet right there.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't plug it in right there.
You don't do that, right? Because you need the phone next to you to wake you up in the morning as an alarm.
Well, no, because I've got this guy when I'm
there we
wearing
go.
the Apple Watch.
Yeah, I don't like wearing my watch at night. I don't like sleeping with my watch on.
Half the time I'm pretty good with it. The other
Yeah.
half I'm just kind of like I'm ready to just rip this thing off my body and throw it across the room.
I got gifted the Aura ring, so now
What is that?
what's the Aura
What
ring?
is that?
You haven't seen one of these guys? This
No.
is not this is not an Apple.
thought you-
This is not an Apple product, so I need to not
Okay.
pitch it too hard. But it's a ring that monitors your heart rate. It monitors your oxidation. It monitors.
That's so cool.
And they call it the sleep ring. A lot of people call it the sleep ring because it does monitor my sleep, and so I can go on my phone and look up what time did I go to bed, what time did I actually fall asleep, not just lay down but fell asleep.
How do you get this on your phone?
It's an app you buy.
Oh, okay.
You can get a fittings. You can contact Aura, OURA.com, and say, I want a fitting. And they send you plastic rings to fit. And then you can order it, and it comes. You put the app on your phone. It syncs with Bluetooth. So every morning when I get up, I have the phone app update from my ring. But it can actually tell me my sleep cycles. When was I in deep sleep? When was I in light sleep? When was I in REM sleep?
Does it wake you up?
The ring?
Yeah.
No.
Does it have the I think you called it a haptics?
No, that's the watch can tap you on the wrist. The ring is just a monitoring system.
Yeah, and I use the watch for the haptics to wake me up because I get up so darn early that I don't want to.
You don't want to bing, ding, ding,
disturb
ding.
the husband who does not.
Or
sleep
the friend that
when he does
allows you to
sleep.
take their bed when they're on the couch. I had a
Yeah,
friend
there
in
is that.
Seattle. I was up
There
for
is that.
Seattle for my birthday, and my friend Will did that for me. And I was like, I don't want your bed. I'll sleep on the couch. And he was like, oh, no. That's not how we host. And I went, okay.
Aw, they love us. They really
That's,
love us.
Well, they're just good people. I mean, it's all them. It's not about us. They're good people. We pick good friends. We know we can tell when people are good,
She
and
would appreciate that. I'll tell her you said so.
we keep them in our life. Okay.
True.
So, great conversation about your experience. As always, I like to make sure that we speak the unspeakable, or we address and or say what's important about some of this. And so the topic I just kind of want to gloss over, bring up, is this idea that we started, level like episode 1 was, how do you feel, right? How do you feel about this? Are you anxious? Are you stressed? Are you whatever? And that's part of the challenge of taking on a learning project, is that overwhelm or the anxiety or the, unsurety. It's like, I'm not sure, like, if I should or what. And I just want to make sure that we circle that back around, that, well, we've addressed that a little bit with your response that, it was worth my time, right? This was an investment worth making, because I can now just do the things instead of wonder what things I can do and only do the things I already know. Would you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. I feel so relieved on so many levels. If I can control my tech, then that ultimately just gives me peace of mind. That I'm
And I
able
think
to do the thing.
I think that's a great expression of relief. That as we approach a learning project, we know we need to learn something, and we're going to, I've got to take a class. I'm so anxious or whatever. And then you get done and you're relieved. You're like, that wasn't that bad. Honestly, it was good.
Dysfunction creates a lot of stress in me. And so to have the capability and to know what I can do to, utilize that tech in a good way to help me through my day, through my night even, right? Again, just peace of mind and having that competency to be able to do and move forward and even help the person that's having an issue.
Right, be somebody else's support person or share that knowledge.
Yeah.
Man, why do you think I have the career?
Just so we're clear, I do not want to be a trainer. I am not that person. Please see Jamie Pollock.
Yeah, well, I mean, the people that are in my career, we have white knight syndrome. We ride in on the white horse and we fix the problems. Everybody's like, "Yay, my hero!" And that feeds the desire to keep going and to do it more. And that's not everybody. Not everybody has that. Not everybody.
I have it when I say you need to go check out Jamie's video.
Well, you're kind of saving the day. You're you're riding in and giving them a good solution.
An hour and a half, 2 hours of your life. You can handle it.
There we go. Okay, so real quick, do you have any big question or solution? I always like to make sure we give you at least one solution on something you're struggling with. And I just want to mention, in the last episode, we had started the photos conversation. How do I get my photos from A to B? And I think what we discovered, or what I tried to subtly prove without making a big point of it, is that it's complicated.
Yeah.
There's a lot of levels and layers, and there's decisions to be made on a foundational level, not just how do I go from point A to point B.
Right.
Well, what does point A look like, and what does point B look like, and how do we want this, and then what procedures and structures are a good idea?
Right.
Right? What's a good solution? Not just, can I force this square into this circle and show somebody my picture? And I think it is the kind of that same conversation. I'm going to just force my way through this, and I'm going to just get her done, whether it is an elegant solution or not.
Yeah,
Right.
I really want to be the person that's kind of deliberate about it. The problem that I have and what it is that I'm solving for, so that I can solve it in a good way.
Right.
I mean, having lots of options is great, but to me, that's kind of messy and chaotic sometimes. And it certainly doesn't bring about that peace of mind that I was talking about.
There's no relief.
There's no
relief.
And whenever there's uncertainty, let's just put it that way.
Right. And so I wanted to just make sure that we brought that back up, that's still a topic we haven't resolved yet. And I'm very aware that we want to get back and we want to kind of define some things. We don't have time in this episode to go.
And I haven't attempted it yet. So that's the other thing, is I want to attempt it, and I want to make sure that when I do that, I have the questions written down so that I can come back to, because I know I'm going to run into that. And be like, okay, here's what I experienced.
Well, so let's talk about learning and what we've been learning, what we've been going through, because it was complicated last episode, and there were a lot of onion peeling going on, and so I kind of want to get some feedback on, did you get my lesson, did you get my point or not? There was one main point I was kind of trying to define before I said, go do this, right? And I don't know if it really sunk in or not.
Maybe not. But
I mean, there were so many things. But yeah, what do you think the highlight was?
I mean, you've said it lots of times. It's easier apples to apples, not apples to oranges. These kinds of things. And
telling the people in my life to buy laptops. Yes, I remember. That was not the point I was trying to get across.
This is the great thing about having an Apple consultant, right? And especially one that understands that you may not be going apples to apples. And that is that you identified for me that I didn't have to change my entire process, right? So
Yep.
We know that I'm going to plug my phone in to my computer to move the thing that I need to move onto my computer system and deal with it from there. And
so
that's so helpful because I've done that before.
Right, exactly. Like, what's a skill I already have?
Yeah.
It doesn't all have to be kind of automated or new, or it's not the easiest way, but there's a way.
Am I casting this somewhere? That's another question for later. What is this cast gonna do?
Well, I mean, honestly, the Mandalorian had to, do you want the chainmail or do you want the lightsaber, right? Are you going to be a Jedi or a Mandalorian?
Oh, you're talking about Grogu.
I'm talking about Grogu.
Oh, my goodness.
He had to make the choice.
I love you for talking about Grogu.
Was he gonna take the lightsaber and stay with the Jedi? Was he gonna take the chainmail and go be a Mandalorian with the Mandalorian? He had to make his choice, but there was a choice to be made, and they were both good choices. There is, you know what I mean? It's not like, oh my God, I'm like being a Jedi versus being a Mandalorian.
Okay, so I'm gonna turn this around on you a little bit. Is it the chainmail or the lightsaber?
Well, he chose the chainmail. I'm
I'm
not.
asking you. I'm asking you to choose.
So I just want to make sure that I make this point because, again, it is the foundation of you moving forward in your photos
Getting
project.
away with it, folks. He's not going to answer that one.
Let me finish this analogy, and you
Okay.
don't know. Maybe we'll get to it. I personally feel like Grogu will eventually have both. I think they will let him be a Mandalorian Jedi. I think there's a cross.
That is not an answer. No way.
I can have what I want.
Yeah.
The point that I was really trying to get to with the photos is this idea of having a master copy or a collection somewhere that we know has everything and we know it's safe, right? And then once that is decided or we understand what that is or where it lives, then we can go to the next level of how am I going to segment it and or move it around, import it, export it, sync it, blah, 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 all the 100 terms that we have for movement of data from point A to point B. And I made the joke a couple of times of, we've got the cart before the horse-ish a little bit because you're already ready to move photos back onto the iPhone and I'm still just asking you,
Where's the master copy?
where the master copy? And then we got into that long discussion about
See, this is
ba-
why you are the trainer.
but
This is it.
is it backing up or is it syncing, and then how many copies, and is
Yeah.
it cloud or hard drive or
Yeah.
I'm
And
not
see,
gonna.
I was so single-minded, I guess, in this way that I'm like, solve for the problem, right? How do I get the photos onto my thingy, yeah, right? Like,
But my point was
Mhm.
you're gonna make more problems if we don't foundation and then build on our foundation. You're just gonna end up with a mess and more problems. And I mean, hey, I love more questions. Don't get me wrong. I mean, let's get some good questions. So let's table that for another episode. Just know that we've got. What's that?
I said, where are your masters?
Woo, right? So it's chainmail. The answer is obviously chainmail, Audrey. I mean, lightsabers, meh.
Really?
No, these are lightsabers. These things right here are Jedi Master lightsabers.
Are you choosing? You're choosing the lightsaber?
I just think it's a good analogy. I'm not choosing anything.
Oh boy.
Okay, so to end this last chance, do you have just like a little question or a little inquiry of a
Well,
topic
you
want to
touched
pick?
on it.
Okay, what's
I mean,
what's
always,
this?
right?
Well, I know, but what's this week's
Come on, man.
conundrum?
Well, you touched on the whole Safari thing, right? With the I guess you called them private windows, and my question was, how do I go incognito?
Oh, private browsing versus non-private browsing.
Yeah,
Okay, and you're talking about specifically on the iPhone, right?
specifically on iPhone, specifically on this Safari thing, which
Okay.
Safari is a whole nother world for me too.
So here we go. I'm going to put my iPhone up on the screen. We're going to have a little hands-on lesson about this one topic. So it's just going to take a couple minutes too. You're going to be surprised that it's not as hard as you would think it might be. Okay, so here I am in Safari. These are the wings that I just ate for lunch.
Whoa, those look good.
The smoky hot honey wings.
Were they actually hot?
They weren't super spicy. No.
That's good.
No,
I'm
not
not
at
really
all.
a spicy kind of person.
And this was my fourth or fifth of wing week that I've tried. The ones I had right before this were the best. The trash wings from Migration Brewing were just the best. Anyway, so
We digress.
We digress. One thing about Safari on the phone that you need to be aware of is that as I'm scrolling up, I don't have any controls, right? You can't see the back button. You can't see any button,
so
right?
frustrating.
Well, no,
All
you just
control.
have to get used to two things. One, that the location bar is at the bottom, not the top now, which does make sense because our fingers are down there, so we don't have to obscure our view by getting to the top of it to control it. Opposite of anything anybody's ever been used to. So yes, we're adapting. But when I scroll down, notice it comes up. Right now, I've got my menu.
I've never seen this. Yep.
Right. And so that's the first big thing we get used to is it's at the bottom and it disappears when I'm scrolling in one direction. It shows up when I'm scrolling in the other. So we've got our back button like any browser would have, right? In the middle is the share button, that square with the up arrow. I love the share button. It's my, just my favorite thing to text, email, whatever I need to do. This next one is bookmarks. So like if you're used to bookmarking things, this is where we're going to find our bookmarks, our favorites, our reading list, and our history. But the button we're looking for is this little square with the square in it, which is basically going to take us into what is like tab mode. What tabs do I have open? How many
You
tabs?
have 100 tabs open.
I do have 100 tabs open. Yes, I do.
Wow.
Right. But one of the things, the new Safari, and this is new just 2 operating systems ago, is tab groups, where I can come down here and I can say, well, I want a group of tabs like food sites or BNI or class example.
Okay.
And so these are groups of tabs, 5 or 6 tabs, maybe 10 or 20 tabs that are all on one topic. So you could have like a tab group that's like work. And then when I tap on the work tab group, there's my RoyalWise website and my Google Drive website and my Asana website and my, you know what I mean? Here's the 7 websites that I use when I'm at work.
Okay.
So I could make a tab group and have them gathered together. I tap on the tab group, all of those websites open at one time.
Oh, wow. So that 100 tabs will open at once?
That is actually my just generic or general area. It's not even saved as a tab group. It's just
okay. It's just how many you have open.
That's how many I have open. And I go through and close them every once in a while or whatever. But notice right below it says private. See with the little hand?
Yeah.
So if I if I tap right there, I'm in private browsing mode.
Okay. And it's not going to save any tabs or anything like that.
No,
when
it's
you're done,
not.
you're done.
It's not. Well, that's a little overstated. You get ahead. Your little cart keeps having its own motor, and you don't care about the horse a little bit.
Sorry.
Okay. So it won't remember the pages you visited. It will not keep your search history and autofill information after you close the tab in private mode. It just won't remember any of that stuff. So it's not going to autofill remember anything. It's not going to put it in history. Hit the plus sign, right? And now I can go wherever I want to go. We'll just go to Google just for kicks, right?
Yeah.
The location bar is dark now. That means this is a private session because this area down here is dark.
It wasn't dark before?
If I go back to here, open up this and go to my 1,000 tabs.
It is for me because I think one of the first things that I found.
You may be in dark mode.
Was dark mode.
Yeah, dark mode versus light mode.
Yes, so but we should talk about that sometime because this is really important for people with blue eyes like me.
Yeah. So that's a whole different feature that may override another feature. But to just keep this going, right? For me, when I'm here, if it's white, I know it's not private. And then if I switch back over here to private, it darkens. And so that's, for me, I can tell this is a private browsing session versus a non-private browsing session. I am free to also come here and hit the plus sign again and open up a second tab.
Okay. And is that the only indicator that we're aware of? Is the dark side versus the light?
Well, so what you're really going to notice if I hit that square in a square with the square behind it, it tells me I'm in private. See at the bottom where it says private?
Okay.
So that will say private when I'm in private. And again, I can have 100 tabs open on the private side and 100 tabs open on the non-private side.
Nice.
Right? And I can switch back and forth, and I haven't closed those private tabs. They're still sitting over there waiting for me.
Well, that is somebody who is a genius working in the background to create that little sweetheart.
Right? But when I switch back to private and I close it, now the history's gone. Now the autofill's gone. Now all the stuff in that window or tab is gone. Okay. Right? So I don't want you to get the false idea that if I were to open, a series of tabs here, 3 tabs open, I'm in private mode. I'm going to switch out of private mode, right? I haven't closed those tabs. They're still there. They're still in private mode. They're still remembering where I was, all those things, right? But they are private. They're not going to go into history when I eventually do close them. Now, I'm going to show you one last trick, and this is super cool. If you want to close tabs, you can just swipe them left and close those tabs.
Oh, okay.
Or you can hit the X in the corner and
which
close
is what
those
I've been doing, but swipey.
Swipey lefty, so I'm now down to 96 tabs. But if I switch over to private, if I want to close all the tabs at one time, I'm going to touch and hold on the done button and watch what pops up.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
right?
close all 3.
Right, so touch, hold, and slide, or touch and hold to see what pops up. And now I can say close all those tabs.
Okay.
So I could close all 96 tabs at one time. I don't have to swipe 97 times.
Yeah, that's a blessing.
And now that I've closed it, it tells me in private browsing mode. I'm going to go back to my non-private area.
There we go.
How was that? What'd you think?
Perfect. It's exactly what I needed because, some of us like to pretend to be our own doctor,
Hmm.
so you're getting on the web and you're researching whatever it is that is ailing you, and you just don't want that to be tracked. So,
And
yeah.
so here are the ones that were the absolute bomb wings. They were called Seattle to Portland, and or Trash Wings is the nickname. Migration Brewing
Oh, wow. Doesn't that
on
look good?
Sweet Baby Ray's, Frank's Red Hot Sauce, Ranch, and Green Onions.
Well, we could
Um,
do without the hot sauce.
the
But yeah, the
cornstarch,
ranch all day
um,
long,
I'll
ranch.
the cornstarch made them as crisp on the outside. They were big and meaty, but the sweet barbecue and the Frank's Red Hot together with ranch on top,
Yeah. Kind of like your buffalo.
uh, but more sweet. Like
Yeah.
really like
Okay.
a
Okay.
real
You're
hit.
speaking the language. Now you got it.
Yeah, sweet. Okay, does that help with private browsing
It
and
does.
Safari tabs
Yep.
and because
Perfect.
that's a whole nother hour class of how does
Whoa.
Safari work and
Oh, yes. Okay.
well, honestly, it's the level 2 class. Once you get done with all the basics and you go to navigating apps and how to use Siri. How to use Siri as a voice control on the phone, ups your level on controlling it just without touching it. And then navigating apps on that kind of like going right up or, left up and out of and right down into. But then also there's this swiping up of opening and closing the drawer. There's something called a drawer. And so that's the level 2 stuff is really how to understand when you're in an app. Am I at the top of the hierarchy? Am I 2 levels deep? Like, where am I?
Cool. I'm excited. Now,
Yeah.
see, I've gone from trepidation to excitement,
And
people.
and think about that more because next week I do want to have a conversation about that. We've struck a pretty good balance of making sure that we're covering tech, we're learning hands-on how-to, but this is a human experience. I don't want to lose that concept. I want to make sure through this whole series we're coming back to that. That's why I brought it up midway through this episode of that feeling of anxiety before and relief after, trepidation versus excitement about what's possible, not like, oh my God, there's so much possible, right? So maybe next week we'll pick that up and see what the human experience of learning is to a little bit better. Okay, anything
Well,
else you
and I
want to?
can answer the question that you did not,
Well,
right? And
what's
maybe
that?
this is telling a little bit.
Are you
Maybe
doing
maybe
lightsaber
this
versus?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Because here we go. I mean, maybe this is like part of my learning experience. I would choose the Mandalorian all day, every day, 100%.
You'd
And
be
part of
chainmail.
that,
You'd be
I would
chainmail.
I would be chainmail.
Okay.
And part of that is the armor, right? And the fact that you get to blow shit up. But the armor, right? Like some of this tech feels like I'm armored up. It's awesome. So
Well, I'm going to go ahead and play devil's advocate, and I don't have a decision yet. But once you learn how to use your lightsaber, you can block everything and you don't need armor, right?
Well,
the
that's just
Jedis
different.
don't need armor. That's the beauty of being a Jedi is they don't need all that metal hanging on them because
I have been protecting myself. That is very true.
they know they can sense that it's coming and they can dodge and block and that's the Jedi way.
Well, we'll see if you can convince me. So far, you're doing a very good job. But
Well, we will define what the epic journey of iPhone discovery is by the end of all this.
perfect.
And
I
I
love
think
this
I'm gonna
universe.
I'm gonna fit that into my training next year. I think when I go over on my training next year, we will be epic journeying through the thing. With that. Thanks for spending the time here I think we're starting to call this jMac Fixes Everything. Maybe the name of our podcast webcast
Because
is
you do,
jMac
jMac.
Fixes Everything. But this has been Switching from Android to Apple with Audrey. And again, Audrey, always thank you for your questions, your feedback, your guidance, by the way. I learn from you too. So come visit us at roywise.com and we'll see you guys next time in class.
Bye.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of jMac Fixes Everything, and don't forget to swing over to royalwise.com/iPhone class and use the coupon code AskJMac6 to get 50% off on my iPhone Level 1 class, Focus on Foundations. We're glad that you spent this time with us. If you have any comments, throw them in the YouTube comments or in the Apple Podcast comments, and or send an email to askjmac@gmail.com, and we'll get back to you with some answers, and we'll see you next episode. Thanks a lot. My iPhone's only responding when I say Shirley instead of Siri. I think I left it in airplane mode. Well, that's it for today, everybody. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments, and maybe we'll answer your question in the next episode of jMac Fixes Everything. Thanks.